But according to U.S. Ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, Soros has done more to vilify the state of Israel and to fund anti-Israel propaganda and machines than almost any other person on the face of the earth. So here's a Jew who can't stand Israel and is doing everything he can to undermine it. In addition, Soros is a wealthy man. He became fabulously wealthy from the free enterprise system, and yet it's his desire to make the rest of us live under Marxist socialism, or let's call it what it is, under communism. He fled communism in Hungary as a youth at the end of World War II, but wants the rest of us to live under it.
By what many people are probably feeling was a divisive campaign, Americans are, believe it or not, hopeful as they come together to vote. We spoke with voters of all backgrounds from the East Coast to the West and North to South, and they told us about their hopes for after Election Day and their dreams for our country's future.
My hopes are that the country will calm down.
Vote like we never did before. Every single vote matters.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good time. Get out and vote.
I feel like 2020 has been very challenging and difficult for many of us. But on Election Day, we all get to come together and collectively show our power.
I want to see a better change in the world for people that look like me.
I think we're redefining what it means to be an American, and I think
we all have to vote our conscience. We have to elevate our human consciousness and vote for the type of country we want to see, the type of world we want, and so that way it infects the whole world.
My biggest wish for the election is that we're able to heal the divisions between the political parties and accomplish something positive.
Storm brewing right now in this earth. COVID, social injustice. And with all these things happening, it's making people become woke, right? My question is, what are people awakening to? And for us, we're awakening to what does the Word of God say?
Somebody asked me, if I'm a Democrat, minority or Caucasian, and I vote Biden, can I still be a part of RFA Church? The answer is absolutely.
And if next Sunday, Joe Biden is determined to be our next president, and 90% of your congregation will be determined.
If Joe Biden becomes president, we're going to pray for him just like we prayed for everybody else.
1 Timothy 2:1-3.
The proposed Biden agenda starts by turning a new page on American leadership with an emphasis on unity and bipartisanship to address the many challenges facing America.
And a trailblazer for choosing her to become the first woman of color to serve as vice president.
While I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last. Because every little girl watching tonight sees that this is a country of possibilities.
Biden declaring to work for all Americans, extending a hand to the 70 million voters who did not support him.
For all those of you who voted for President Trump, I understand the disappointment
The call for
tonight.
Biden came after the battleground state of Pennsylvania put him over the 270 electoral votes needed to win the White House, largely with ballots from the challenge in the courts and on social media. Trump tweeting today, "These people are thieves. The big city machines are corrupt. This was a stolen election." Even so, Biden's electoral gain sent people dancing in the
Joe
streets.
Biden, al nuovo presidente Joe Biden.
World leaders quickly offered their congratulations. And in Israel, some expressed hope.
I don't know if Biden is good or bad for Israel. I hope he will be good. Let's see, time will tell.
Still, on the other side of the political spectrum, questions whether the race is really over.
I just would like the election to be decided.
Of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., King. Alveda, it is good to see you this morning. Thanks for being here.
It's wonderful to see you as well. Good morning and happy Sunday.
Oh, happy Sunday to you. Let's go ahead and take a listen to a little bit of what President-elect Joe Biden had to say last night when talking about unity.
I sought this office to restore the soul of America, to rebuild the backbone of this nation, the middle class, and to make America respected around the world again, and to unite us here at home. I pledge to be a president who seeks not to divide.
Right, it's a pleasure to have you with us. So many of us know about George Soros, but fill us in for those who don't know about him. Who is he? What is he trying to do to America?
Well, George Soros is a name that most people recognize, but don't put all the pieces together or connect the dots, you might say. He reminds me of Winston Churchill's comment about Russia. Churchill said of Russia that it was a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma. And that's not a half bad description of George Soros. First of all, he's Jewish by birth, but he denies God and he absolutely hates Israel. And yet, he's very quick to call his critics anti-Semitic because
discuss the aftermath of the U.S. presidential election and what impact it will have on Israel. President Biden and President Trump diametrically opposed views on the Middle East. What impact could a Trump administration or a potential Joseph Biden administration have on Israel?
Prime Minister Netanyahu have launched this diplomatic initiative that's really transforming the Middle East with all the agreements with the Gulf states and now nations in Africa and Malawi getting ready to move its embassy to Jerusalem after the United States led with that, change that in midstream. Remember, if there is a Biden administration, his administration is going to be under intense pressure to ratchet up the hostility. When you get down to policy, that policy is likely to be dictated by Biden's left flank. And so the stakes are really high for Israel and for all these nations that have embarked on this new course.
The potential of an Iranian nuclear deal being renewed by a Biden administration.
Well, that's another huge one because Biden has promised it more than once that that's what they will do. They will re-enter and resubmit to that promises to bring it back, which means the rise of globalism, the rise of return to Palestinian talks. I mean, I think you would have all of that in a Biden administration. So once again, the contrast
we're all holding our collective breath to see who will win the White House. What's the atmosphere like over there?
Well, George, everybody's holding their breath here as well. I mean, what's going to happen here, what's going to happen there for the presidential election, as you know, is going to have a profound impact not only on Israel, but the entire Middle East, much for that matter, the rest of the world. And I know the outcome right now is something they're waiting and watching.
President Trump has had a profound impact on the Middle East thus far in the last 4 years that he has been in charge. Who do Israelis and the Middle East, for that matter, benefit more from, a Biden or a Trump administration?
Well, George, it would be really depending on who you ask. If you ask the Palestinian Authority, they're going to say they're hoping actually for a Biden win because that will shift the attention away from the Abraham Accords back onto them, and that's exactly what they want. Take a look at Iran. They're going to likely hoping for a Biden win, too, because what they're going to get, it would be relief from sanctions and a renewal of the Iranian nuclear deal.
This is an unbelievable time in the history of our country, and one of the things that I see out here in California are these unbelievably weird and strange, controlling lockdowns that are being placed on people of faith in particular. I mean, so much of what we value appears to be under attack. We can't meet in our churches, even though the case rate and the death rate in our county is less than 1/100th of 1%. It seems as though essential liberties like the ability to gather, the freedom of speech, and so many other things are being deemed non-essential, while other things are being called essential, like the ability to get together inside of a weed shop or a liquor store or a casino or an abortion clinic. So some friends of mine and I, Dinesh D'Souza, Charlie Kirk, Pastor Jack Hibbs, Sissy Graham Lynch, and others, created an event called Non-Essential. And we go in and question the standards of what's being imposed upon us. We pull back the mask of deception that we believe is coming over the nation and those who love liberty, and we offer solutions so that we can fight for those essential liberties that our forefathers fought for, that our Constitution lays out. We can vote. We have the privilege to vote, and we cannot sit this one out. There is way too much at stake. One of the other things that I'm seeing is that people of faith are waking up to the scary reality that socialism is knocking on our door.
A new steel fence went up around the White House yesterday, and police are preparing for the possibility of unrest regardless of the election's outcome. Lead national correspondent David Begnaud is in Midtown with more on this story. David, good morning to you. People very, very nervous. The streets so eerie this morning.
They are a little quiet but bustling as people are starting to get out to go to work and hopefully go to vote. Gail, take a look behind me. The famous Macy's flagship store is all boarded up with plywood, and we've noticed this morning more and more businesses, as we hear sirens in the background, have started to board up. They don't want a repeat of what we saw during the George Floyd protests, where peaceful protesters were in some cases overshadowed by looters looking to make trouble. Some businesses have hired private security. They've taken in the extra chairs and table for outdoor dining so that people can't use them as projectiles to break glass. New York City, and for that matter, the country.
There was an independent report that found 5 states are especially at risk for civilian militia activity this week, including the state of Oregon. The governor says the National Guard is on standby.
We stand here today urging all Oregonians to commit to non-violent expression.
Well, this morning, the White House says Jared Kushner never spoke to the president about conceding. Several media outlets reported that Kushner, the president's senior advisor and son-in-law, had a conversation with the president and advised him how to accept the election loss. In a tweet, campaign spokesman Jason Miller denied that conversation ever happened.
At least 3 U.S. supermarket chains are taking steps to prevent a resurgence of hoarding as cases of COVID-19 increase nationwide. Kroger, H-E-B, and Giant are limiting purchases of toilet paper, paper towels, disinfectant, and in some cases even hand soap. Research firm IRI reports about 19% of paper products and 16% of household cleaners were out of stock just last week.
Of Affordable Care Act, it is in the hands of the Supreme Court. Tomorrow, the 9 justices, they will hear oral arguments in California versus Texas, a case to repeal the ACA, commonly known as Obamacare. This ongoing lawsuit challenges the ACA's individual mandate provision. The individual mandate requires most people maintain a minimum level of health insurance coverage or you pay a fine to the IRS. Republicans argue the law is unconstitutional in its current form, and the GOP also has yet to provide an alternative health care plan for Americans. Democrats say so many people depend on ACA for health coverage that it would really be disastrous to remove the program, especially during a pandemic.
President Donald Trump has fired Secretary of Defense Mark Esper. The president announcing his decision on Twitter today. Christopher Miller, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, will replace Esper effective immediately. Several defense officials reportedly said Esper had a resignation letter prepared and that once the election was decided, he could be gone within days. The Senate confirmed Esper in July of last year, making him the president's second Senate-confirmed Secretary of Defense after James Mattis.
Mayor de Blasio is giving an update on the coronavirus pandemic in New York City. Let's go to it now.
Because not only do we have leaders who are going to move us forward, and in Joe Biden, I'm absolutely convinced, a leader who's going to get so much done to put this country back on its feet and heal this nation. That's who he is. That's the kind of person he is. And Kamala Harris is going to do so much by his side and has fundamentally changed this nation already by showing that leadership is for everyone. Everyone's talents will be honored and respected. This is an amazing turning point. But what it means for us here in New York City in particular is that we will have 3 things that we need desperately. We will now have clear national leadership in fighting the coronavirus with a clear message, a clear vision, a clear strategy that we can believe in. That's 1. 2, a vaccine we can trust. That's going to be crucial. A vaccine that when it is finally announced and distributed, people will believe it is the real thing and be ready to take it. And 3, of course, that stimulus that will put us back on our feet.
Now to the coronavirus. Maryland reports 1,300 new cases, bringing our total to more than 155,000. 700 people are being treated in hospitals, 168 in the ICU, 9 more have died. Statewide positivity rate is back above 5%. This morning, an update from Baltimore County leaders. County Executive John Olszewski says public health efforts should be implemented on the state level. At noon, the FDA grants fast-track designation for a coronavirus vaccine developed right here in Maryland. Gaithersburg-based Novavax made the announcement this morning. Its coronavirus vaccine is in the late phase of clinical development. Novavax expects to begin its pivotal phase 3 clinical trial in the U.S. and Mexico by the end of the month.
Well, this all comes as there is new hope today in the fight against COVID-19. Nancy Chen tells us about Pfizer's vaccine that is looking very hopeful.
Pfizer says early data shows its experimental vaccine is 90% effective. The FDA's bar for effectiveness is 50%, so Pfizer's shot could get emergency use authorization over the next several days.
This is an RNA vaccine, so these are the instructions for the spike protein of COVID-19 that are injected in the arm, and then the human body makes the protein itself, and an immune response is made to it.
A new coronavirus testing site is now open in Aurora. Testing at the sports park ended last Thursday, but the city opened a new site at the Aurora Center for Active Adults on Del Mar Circle. The site is free and open Mondays to Saturdays from 8 to 5. The city does ask that you pre-register.
COVID-19 spreading at an unprecedented rate across Minnesota. The Department of Health reported another record day, nearly 6,000 new cases. They also reported 31 deaths. Hospitalizations have also hit record levels. The governor and other health leaders are urging Minnesotans to practice social distancing.
Denver Nuggets head coach Michael Malone recorded a video asking everyone to follow the updated COVID protocols. We have a link to the full video in our online article. A health order went into effect Sunday, requiring people to be home by 10 p.m. in Denver.
Absolutely. We've all been anticipating this and hoping for it. You know, Pfizer's been working in concert with a German company to create this vaccine that would be given as 2 doses 3 weeks apart. And they say that early data on almost 44,000 participants in a phase 3 clinical trial shows that the vaccine, again, could be more than 90% effective and without any evidence of serious safety concerns. That's right. It's very encouraging. And this is the timeline that we were hoping for. We were hoping that there would be a good vaccine candidate or candidates by the end of the year.
And across the Commonwealth, 3,402 new cases of COVID-19. Just moments ago, Department of Health Secretary Rachel Levine spoke about the recent spike, saying we all have to do our part if we want things
to get better. This is a sobering look at our current reality as COVID-19 continues to impact our state and our country. We all need to take steps to prevent the spread of this virus. And if we don't, we put ourselves, our families, and our communities and our health systems at risk.
2 members of the President-elect's COVID-19 Advisory Board have Chicago ties. Dr. Julie Morito is the commissioner of the Chicago Department of Public Health, and Dr. Ezekiel Manuel is an oncologist who works with the National Institutes of Health and served as White House advisor from 2009 to 2011. He's also the brother of former Mayor Rahm Emanuel. The latest on the coronavirus pandemic. Coronavirus cases have hit a milestone, more than 50 million positive cases worldwide since the pandemic began. While the U.S. has also hit a new high, nearly 600,000 cases have been reported in just a few days. But today, a ray of hope from the drug giant Pfizer in the final phase of its experimental vaccine. Pfizer says early data shows its experimental vaccine is 90% effective.
One of the most mysterious things about COVID is its ability to turn a person's immune system against itself, calling what is called cytokine storm.
The key to saving lives from that storm may be in a clinical trial launching at Washington University School of Medicine here in St. Louis. I spoke with the doctor in charge of it. Most people can recover from COVID, but others continue to fight the virus even after it has cleared the body.
All 3 co-chairs of the Biden-Harris administration's new coronavirus advisory board have ties to Massachusetts. Dr. David Kessler graduated from Amherst College and Harvard Medical School. Former Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy was part of the faculty at Harvard Medical School after graduating from Harvard and doing his residency at Brigham and Women's Hospital. Dr. Marcela Nunez-Smith also was a resident at the Brigham. And Harvard professor Dr. Atul Gawande, who is also a surgeon at Brigham and Women's Hospital, will serve on the board.
Sean, thank you. The U.S. Secretary for Housing and Urban Development, Ben Carson, has tested positive for coronavirus.
This is according to a department spokesperson. Carson is the latest Trump administration member to test positive for COVID-19. Just last week, White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows also tested positive. Both attended the Trump campaign's election night watch party in the White House.
Regularly wearing a mask whenever you're out. With regard to masks, today I'm announcing that statewide we are extending the mask mandate for another 30 days. With the rate of the virus the highest that it's ever been, it's more important than ever before in the course of the pandemic to wear a mask when you're around others. At the store, walking in or out of restaurants, in a workplace that people have to be there and can't telecommute. Masks are not as effective as a vaccine, but they're somewhere in that 50 to 75% range. It depends on the mask and the distance and the situation. You are far safer by wearing a mask, and you also protect others if you yourself might be asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic from spreading it and preventing an outbreak with those who you work with or those who you love. So we're going to continue that. I also wanted to address and applaud a lot of the efforts that local governments are taking. Each community in Colorado is experiencing the pandemic differently at different times. In Mesa County, Colorado, they're experiencing the very first wave of coronavirus. In areas like Denver, they're experiencing the largest wave, but it's the third in effective time that it's peaked, and it's at greater rates now than it was in March and April.
While President Trump is planning legal battles for the presidency, President-elect Joe Biden is following up on a campaign promise. As you just heard, a short time ago, he also mentioned members of his coronavirus task force and talked about where things stand right now.
There are now nearly 10 million COVID cases in the United States. And last week, we topped 120,000 new cases on multiple successive days. Infection rates are going up, hospitalizations are going up, deaths are going up.
We've learned that a doctor from our area is on the president-elect's task force. Eyewitness News reporter Howard Monroe picks.
Governor Murphy is giving an update on the coronavirus pandemic in New Jersey. Let's go to it now.
Real treat to have you here, Senator. Suffice it to say, however, that we are both anxious to begin working with President-elect Biden on issues which are not only important to our nation as a whole, but to New Jersey specifically. First and foremost, we stand ready to work with the President-elect on matters directly related to the ongoing pandemic, whether that be in broad-based mitigation efforts or further federal coronavirus relief, especially direct assistance to states and a resumption of the extended unemployment benefits for our residents. I'm heartened by the President-elect's decision to make his first official announcement the creation of his coronavirus task force. We must restore a central focus on science and medicine as we fight this pandemic.
That which was from the beginning, which we have heard, which we have seen with our eyes, which we have looked upon, and our hands have handled of the word of life. For the life was manifested, and we have seen it, and bear witness, and show unto you that eternal life, which was with the Father, and was manifested unto us. That which we have seen and heard declare we unto you, that ye also may have fellowship with us. And truly our fellowship is with the Father, and with his Son, Jesus Christ.